Okay. Thank you for joining us again. My name is Daren Bryce. I am the Vice President of the Food and Pharmaceuticals Business Unit. And I'm going to talk to you today about our growth initiatives and margin drivers. So you've heard already today from Alex, who's talked about our technology platform. And obviously this can go towards the contract research income stream. You've heard from Andy earlier on talking about the contract manufacturing business and our manufacturing capabilities here. So I'm going to talk about the third area of our income streams, which is the products business. So I'm going to take you through the markets we work in, what's driving the margins within those markets, and then I'm going to take you through three of our growth initiatives to demonstrate to you why the products business is a major part of our ongoing growth and makes a major part of achieving that €100 million target that Arian mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. So, we work in high-value markets, high-margin markets within the food and life science industry, as Arian's talked about before. And we're looking at these markets. What is it that makes these markets attractive for us? We work in a number of niches, and what we're really doing is delivering functionality, flavor, and texture through the products that we supply to our customers. And across all of these markets, what's really common is that they all have a high degree of innovation, whether that's delivering an alternative to an animal product, whether that's reducing the CO2 impact, whether that's driving increased yields. And really, when we look at these markets, they are microbiology is key across all of them, whether that's through the enzymes that we supply, or whether, as Esther said, it's actually about microbiological fermentation. But when we look at other aspects here, we're looking at I think someone mentioned before, the stickiness of the markets. These markets all have a high barrier to entry. Often that can be in the foodstuffs, through the flavor or texture that we're delivering. Many brands don't want to change that. They're considered essential to that brand, and our products are delivering those impacts. Or when you look at highly regulated markets, like the life science market, the regulation itself provides a barrier to entry, and therefore, once you've won the business, makes it very sticky. When we look at the margins we have within these markets, what's really driving our margins here is our deep application knowledge and the ability to focus that application knowledge on emerging trends. Really, Arian talks about a lot of different trends that we have within these markets, but specifically I wanted to talk about two. Talk about the sustainability, and when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about, as I mentioned earlier, increasing yields, looking at increasing shelf life, looking at converting novel products such as plant proteins into proteins that we'll consume. But also then, healthy living is a key trend as well. And when you think about the use of alternative sweeteners, we think about the low or no alcohol wine, as Esther was talking about earlier on. And when we think about the life science industry, specifically we can look at platform technologies such as the CRISPR-Cas technology for gene editing, or actually when we look at new technologies we've seen through the recent pandemic, when we look at the use of production of DNA, RNA, which can be produced in vaccines, can be produced in diagnostics such as PCR. These platforms are driving new trends within healthcare, and all of them are using microbiology as a key technology. So I want to talk to you, as I said, about these three main initiatives. But first of all, I thought it's good just to reiterate, where is our uniqueness in the BRAIN Biocatalysts business? Arian mentioned before the unique combinations of business models. And it's clear to say this combination of business models is designed to allow our customers to access the shared technology platform. And this is crucial because this allows us to access also those markets with high barrier to entry. A sticky customer, a market with high barrier to entry is great when you have the business. It's hard to access. This combination of business models is our way that we can get to access the customer, and the customer can access our technology. But that's not only our only uniqueness. We also develop unique products into high-value niches. These are often the niches that our competitors don't work to access. They supply standard products. So this is where some of our formulation capabilities becomes really useful. We work with our customers to develop products that they can't access from our competitors. And that's been crucial to our growth so far and will be going forward. As I said, as part of that, the application know-how is also critical. And that also develops customer intimacy. That customer intimacy is critical because it allows us to develop really high-value innovation partnerships with a number of companies, both multinationals and small and medium companies, that allows us to really co-develop technology with our customer base. So, as I said before, there are 3 areas I want to talk about within how we're developing our business and expanding our market share. Quite simply, the first is geographical expansion, so taking our existing products into new territories, but within our existing overall market. The second is developing new products within our existing markets, so using that shared technology platform. And finally, taking our existing products or our existing services into new markets, and that allows us to create additional value within what we have already developed. So first of all, looking at geographic expansion. And when we look in that, it's important to understand how we approach the market now. That customer intimacy that I talked about earlier is derived from the fact that in Europe and North America, we have a direct route to market. And what I mean by that is that we employ our own salespeople to approach those markets in the majority of cases in our businesses. Where we work outside of North America and Europe, we often work through distribution partnerships. And we have an established network of distribution across many parts of the world. I've put on here some of them and some of the regions. We have distribution in other areas as well that we haven't disclosed. We also use our distribution network where we're working in niche markets. So where our own salespeople, maybe in Europe and North America, are not the most appropriate route to market, we will use the appropriate route wherever needed. And really, this direct route to market has allowed us especially to gain that customer intimacy, to develop these relationships with a number of the top food companies in the world, where we have strategic relationships. Most of the flavor companies, where we have strategic relationships, and a number of the large pharmaceutical companies in the world. So this is a real asset we see, and we'll look to use these things as much as we can. So the 2 main initiatives we have are looking to understand ourselves, where our strengths are, cross-fertilize these strengths into areas where we have a weaker market coverage. A good example of that is in the US. So we have a historically strong business in the US in the dairy and food specialities business. In 2021, as Arian said, we acquired a business in the US called Biosun, which is essentially a distribution business. So we now have, by combining these 2, as we have been in the last year or so, by combining these 2, we consolidate that strength we have in the market in those markets and establish a stronger customer service and logistics function towards those customers. But crucially, we can then use that strength to look at our other business, go through that same route to market and derive those other benefits in other markets. And I'll give you an example of that in a moment. But we also can look at how to invest further in that through the commercial team. And we have localized a lot of our commercial functions from the UK to the US when it's covering the US market to really solidify that strength. So conversely, in the beverage And the baking business, which has essentially come from acquisitions of Vice Biotech and Biotech, we have a very strong distribution network. And so in the dairy and food specialties market, we are now working to push some of those products through that distribution market in markets where that's appropriate, as I say, typically outside of the US and Europe. So this is something where we're identifying the strength, identify an area where those strengths can be cross-fertilized into another market to deliver a strength. So giving you an example of that is in our baking business. So our baking business has experienced very strong growth in the last couple of years within Europe, Latin America, Middle East and North Africa. It's been 15% year-on-year growth in the last 3 years, and we expect that to continue in those territories. However, with the position we've created in the US with our acquisition and our existing dairy and food specialties business, we now have been working to use that route to market to grow our baking business in the US, which is an attractive market for our baking business, and we've been developing that significantly over the last year or so, to the extent that we've now started to deliver our first products to the US, and we have strong plans of how to grow in that territory. So it's a good example of how this is working. Obviously, that growth allows us to look further at the baking business itself and understand what investment would be needed to support that existing growth. What little bolt-ons do we need in terms of additional capacity, in terms of additional application testing? And we're allowed to now say, and what needs to be more local to the customer in this new territory in the US, and what can be serviced from Europe. So it's a really nice way of how to approach a new market. So, as you might expect, from the discussions that we've already had about the technology platform, and where I've already talked to you about the routes to market and the markets we serve, product development is a big part of our forward growth. So recently, we've launched a number of new products within the baking area, within plant protein modification, within oils and fats modification. And currently we have a large number of products with customers under evaluations, which we would expect a good proportion of those to transition into sales. However, customers' product development takes time as well. Customers' qualifications takes time. To really look at the impact that we have of a new product, we need to go back a part. Andy spoke earlier on about a new product we developed in the lipid modification space that was launched in 2022. And on the next slide here, I'll talk to you and show you what the impact a new product can have when we launch it into the market that we do already have a route to market in. But obviously the future growth is also about our development pipeline. Arian spoke to you before about the products that we have in development. We have 9 products that are already in the lab, and he talked about we had up to 50 products that we're evaluating, and actually that list is growing at the moment. The evaluation before going to that obviously needs to be careful, but then the MPV, as Arian spoke about, is an important part to ensure that we have success. But those are the products that are developed here in Zwingenberg, and it's really important to understand there's another route to product development that we have, which is utilizing our application knowledge to develop a reformulated product. And this is crucial. I talked before about the markets where we look at operating where our larger competitors don't operate. And this is where we add real value. So we have another 25 products that we have in our development pipeline currently, where we are reformulating, blending sometimes some of the enzymes with other enzymes to create slightly different activities. And this is a real strength in ours and something we look to continue to grow and continue to invest in. So I talked about an example of the impact a new product has. So the product that Andy was talking about was a product for enzyme-modified mayonnaise production. So I'm not sure how many are aware of mayonnaise production. Mayonnaise is essentially a combination of egg yolks, fat, and water, and it's an emulsion. So they need something to help them stay together. Typically in your own kitchen, you'll just whisk and whisk and whisk and create an emulsion. A lot of work. You could just have an electric whisker. I don't have one at home, but whisk it and make it. And not in my kitchen, but in our application lab, it looks like the example here. the untreated egg yolk at 0 hours. You can see there is an emulsion. There is stability to that material. But after an hour, you lose that. And actually, if you leave it for longer, they'll start to separate out between the water and the fat. So when you add an enzyme, you can see, hopefully in the picture, you can see it has slightly better stability, slightly better structure there, but crucially after an hour, there is still stability to the emulsion. And that's what we know. We put a piece of enzyme on our mayonnaise, on our plate, and it will still retain that structure over time. And this is achieved through an enzyme. We at BRAIN Biocatalysts have been supplying that enzyme for a number of years, and it's animal-derived. The market has now moved to a non-animal product. So it's an enzyme that is produced with microbial biology. And we developed, as Andy talked about, a new product for that and launched it in 2022. So the blue on the graph on the right-hand side is actually the sales of the existing animal-derived product. The grey is the impact of the new product. So in 2 years, we've doubled our sales in this sector from sales in the new product. We're still only a small market share. Most of these sales are in Europe, and obviously there is a market outside of it. So we're going to grow further by growing outside of Europe. But crucially also, we're going to grow by using our application knowledge to apply this enzyme to other markets as well, to reformulate it for other applications, to really achieve further growth beyond the existing market that we developed the product for. So it's a good example of how we can use existing enzymes to penetrate new markets. Which neatly takes me on to my third point, how we penetrate new markets. We can penetrate new markets through the use of existing products. We can also penetrate new markets through the use of our services proposition. Now, there was a question online about the CRO model, and I think there's been questions about the CMO model. How do you build this? How scalable are those models? And they're questions where these models of contract research fit in. This is a great example of contract research, and to a certain extent contract manufacturing is a great way for us to enter new markets. It is a business development tool as well. It's a question of, do we work passively or do we work proactively in approaching new markets with a specific business model? And I want to talk to you about a really good example of that when we look at what we're looking to do within the life science market. The life science market itself, as we analyze it through our own market research, is an attractive market for us. Arian showed you how it compares to our other markets. It's a strong market. When you look at life sciences holistically, in general, life sciences is a small volume, high value market. It's a market where microbiology delivers significant advantages. And so when you look at that market, to the strengths and capabilities in BRAIN Biocatalysts, it is a very attractive market. Now, for many years, we've had a very strong relationship, a very strong reputation, in this market with the contract manufacturing proposition out of Cardiff. So actually, we have a strong route to market already. There is an active and thriving enzyme discovery market within the pharmaceutical biocatalyst. Protein engineering is used extensively in that market. So if we combine the capabilities we have here in Zwingenberg with the existing route to market in contract manufacturing that we have in Cardiff, then we have a really strong motivation to strategically approach this market. So what makes us unique here? So I think we've described before a general uniqueness for BRAIN Biocatalysts is the combination of enzyme discovery, scale-up, and commercial production. And that's absolutely true within this market. Another uniqueness we've developed is actually our approach to IP in this market. Now, because we are focused on product production, on manufacturing, as the end result of this business. That's the successful collaboration, is we want to go with the customer all the way to manufacturing. Most other companies do not. They look to rely on royalties and licensing revenues. So we're able to really challenge an existing frustration from customers in the market that they have IP restrictions, they do not get freedom to operate. We circumnavigate that. We just avoid that obstruction by saying, we'll just sell you the product. It's fine. You have complete freedom to operate. which is a real advantage, and it's addressing a key weakness within the pharmaceutical biocatalyst market for most of the existing players. But also, we've talked before about some of the technologies that there's an impact from after COVID. So molecular diagnostics, the use of PCR has been a key technology that's been rapidly accelerated. Messenger RNA, key technology that's been rapidly accelerated and actually is going to be applied a lot more in pharmaceuticals rather than just in vaccines in the future. And all of these use a lot of molecular diagnostics capabilities, a lot of enzymes used within these. The manufacturing capabilities, including the chromatography that Andy mentioned earlier, we have those capabilities in-house, and this is something where we're going to look to focus our product development towards these areas, because they're really attractive markets for us, and we're very well suited to further develop that. So what have we done? So we've launched a new brand back in October into this area, BRAIN Biotech Life Science Solutions. We've formed an established team to focus exclusively on this market and really focus on the growth that we're looking for. And how are we going to grow? Really what we're looking to do is leverage the existing capabilities, so that contract research and contract manufacturing proposition as a way for the customer to access our shared technology, going to penetrate the existing market. We're going to use that existing credibility that we have in the market to come to the market with a wider offering with the same credibility. We will develop products both within the pharmaceutical market aligned to the service offering. So the service offering has allowed us to enter a new market, and we're also going to develop products in some really key strategic markets aligned to our core competencies. So there's some really interesting ways that we're going to grow here. Our targets, to give you an idea, we'll look to grow the existing service business by 200% within the 5-year period, and we expect to develop 3 million of further product sales within 5 years. Now, this is generally a slower growing market because of the way clinical trials work there. Diagnostics a little bit quicker, but obviously this is an ambition for this market. Those product sales will grow much more than that in a longer time frame. But obviously our target today is a 5-year time frame. So finally, we've talked about the markets and the drivers within that market. And really that comes to where we have the product sales now that, in the most recently reported numbers, that are 42.5 million euros. That is a growth trajectory already of 15% year-on-year growth over the previous 4-year periods. So there's a strong growth trajectory in that existing product sales business. And really, we've been talking about these 3 initiatives of how are we going to continue that growth trajectory towards that 100 million target. So we've talked about already the products that we have already launched, and I've demonstrated to you how we have existing growth, and that will be applied to the other products that we've more recently launched. And I've explained to you how we're taking our existing offering within the baking business and applying that to the US market. In the more medium term, we're looking at how we would have geographic growth outside of the baking business within the US in other markets by using our existing strengths within our existing routes to market. And also, the new products that are in our development pipeline now will also add on to our sales over the 5-year period. And finally, in addition to the growth that we'll see from contract research and contract manufacturing with our life science initiative, we will also have growth in the product sales. So that will take us to the 75 million, which then Michael will talk about. There are obviously we add the contract research, contract manufacturing, and the license and royalties on top of that to get to the 100 million. Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes.
Please, could you give us an indication regarding the early phase of product delivery for the life science or pharmaceutical, biotech industry, etc.? Are there some of the enzymes in use, for example, in pharmaceutical ingredients in the preclinical phase or in the early clinical phase? Is there something to expect?
So generally, in the preclinical phases of pharmaceutical discovery. So this is small molecule pharmaceutical, so chemistry-based pharmaceuticals. Generally, they will use metal-based catalysts. They normally switch to a more economical process around phase 2A, phase 1, phase 2A. And that's where the process R&D within the pharma companies comes in. And actually, they'll then look for, how can we do this more economically? We've proved the efficacy, now we want to make money. And Biocatalysts as a platform technology has been really successful at that. They've used Biocatalysts for about the last 15 years. And we've certainly seen that being quite effective. In my previous role, I was selling the precious metals, and I can tell you the impact of it swapping. I felt that a lot in my previous role. So yeah, that's a really big change in there. But we then start to, from the contract manufacturing, make those products for clinical trials at small scale, and then they scale up to the large scale.
What importance plays the diagnostic industry for the enzymes you produce?
So the diagnostics industry, there's really two parts of the diagnostics industry. There's clinical diagnostics. We can think of this as lateral flow tests we're all familiar with. And then there's the molecular diagnostics, which is really the PCR, ELISA, a lot of the other molecular biology techniques. And we're focusing on, we can do the contract manufacturing for the clinical diagnostics, and we do have some customers, and we're looking to grow that. We think the product development effort should be focused on the clinical diagnostics because it talks a lot more to our fundamental strengths. There's a good need for suppliers of existing products. There's a scaling issue that we talk to that really well, but actually there's next generation diagnostics as well, and we are well set to look at that.
To increase sales to that level you mentioned and showed us in the chart, how many people must a marketing and sales department have? Internally, regarding the structure of your sales and distribution partners, DKSH, etc., these are very, very huge companies, or Brenntag, and your sales by such kind of companies is probably quite small. What importance play very small distribution partners that address very specific niche plays?
So I think when you look at any distribution channel, I think it's really important, as I said to people, to know where your strengths are and know where your strengths are not. And I think where in this area, where is our strength? Understanding the market, we need to and are focusing on understanding the market a lot. We have the right technology platform to really make a difference here, and we have the manufacturing assets to make a difference. We are working at the moment to understand the market and going direct to market. We may, at the right time, consider a different strategy if appropriate, because absolutely, if it's not a strength of ours, then there are many other ways to work. There are a lot of other distribution channels. It doesn't really answer your question, but...
Yeah, but it gives a hint. And what size must the marketing and sales department have?
So I think when we talked about the markets earlier, certainly for the food market, certainly for the pharmaceutical development, these are actually quite concentrated markets. So the direct sales works really well unless it's outside of your niche or if it's more geographically remote. For some of the other new markets that I'm talking about, say within the diagnostic space, the honest answer is, I don't know yet. And I think we're probably not at the point of disclosing that anyway.
Thank you. Two questions on your baking business. The first one is, you have been quite successful in Europe since you acquired that business. What gives you confidence that you can do the same in the US? That's my. So is it that your product is better, the enzymes are working better, or are you able to produce cheaper?
So do you want to answer this better, Arjen, or? So I'm just wondering, I'm unsure quite what we could disclose at this point.
Why would we be successful in baking in the US is your question. Yeah. We have the products, we have the product range, we have the application skills, we have the production capability, we have all these things. We just didn't have a sales team in North America. Now, through the acquisition and through collaborating more within the group, we have a team. In the early stages now, we're flying into the States and supporting our customers. I was actually at a customer in Long Island, and they were thrilled with the local support that they could get through the BioSun acquisition and the customer intimacy. Are we going to be much cheaper? No, of course not. But do we have great application skills? Absolutely, and that is what customers look for, application skills. Because people in the baking industry talk about industrial bakeries. What they look to do is to cut costs. So they want to have the process as simple as possible so that any operator can run it. But to do that, they need to depend on the technology providers like us to design the formulations that allow that to happen. And that is real value-added selling. So we need customer intimacy, we need the product range, we need the application skills, and I fully expect that we need a lab in North America, a baking lab, i.e. with ovens and things that we have in Nieuwkerk in Netherlands, that we're going to need that. So customer intimacy, product range, and strategic desire to get there.
You just mentioned the lab in the US. That was actually my second question. Do you still have enough capacity to supply the demand you are expecting going forward?
Absolutely, yeah. It's fine for now, and as and where we need extra warehousing capacity, let's say, we can outsource that. So, but we don't like to invest before the growth. We'd like to get the growth, find a way, and invest to expand the capacity. What I fully expect, again, we have a lab for fruit juice, wine, these kinds of applications. A baking lab is something entirely different. You need bakers, you need ovens, you need all new skills. That would be required in the future. But let's first get market penetration.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions
Okay,
online?
no questions online? No?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Your growth of 10% in the next 6 years. Also, I wondered, the bakery market, which is the biggest one, is growing by 15% and is expected to continue, which you said. And you're expanding to the US. And in total, you're only growing by 10% per year. That doesn't fit together, I think. It's very modest.
Yeah. Well, overpromise, under-deliver, or under. There's an element there. So we like to make plans that we think we can achieve.
Okay, that should be easy.
Yeah.
But a more important question is very interesting. The PCR market and also the mRNA. Exactly. Okay, but these tests and these applications exist, and we have the spike proteins and so on. Would you give us a glimpse on what exactly do you want to achieve there, or where can you really contribute in these markets? Because that is definitely something very, very exciting.
So I think yes, to a certain extent, as much as I'm allowed. At the moment, all of these, obviously we know the impact that there was with COVID. We know that very, very rapidly this industry upscaled, and a lot of the enzymes were produced in laboratory conditions. There were decks and decks of shake flasks, no actual fermenters. It was somewhat rapid, is the word I'll use, on how it was delivered. So there's definitely room to improve. Obviously there have now companies that have established there, but I think the industry is looking for more, absolutely. There are technology extensions that can happen, certainly for PCR. That technology there's room to improve on those products. Within the messenger RNA area, which is really these similar enzymes crossing over from diagnostics into pharmaceuticals. And within that area, the vaccine spike was something quite unusual. The long-term projections for that market over the next 10 to 15 years is that through pharmaceuticals that are currently in clinical trials using the same technology, not for vaccines, that will grow back up again. And so it is an area, there are shortages that are predicted in certain chemicals when it's used as a pharmaceutical that are really important. So with, as I say, with the right customer intimacy and understanding of the market, then the right decisions should be a very profitable way forward.
We're not that yet there to understand this in detail.
We are getting there, and I can't share any more information. But I'm definitely not there. There's more to do, definitely. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.